Well, good morning. Let's get started. We've got a workshop today, continuing our budget process. And Mr. Paul Pierce, if you'll call the roll, please, sir.
Mayor Joe McComb.
Here.
Council members Roland Barrera. Councilmember Rudy Garza.
Here.
Paulette Guajardo. Gil Hernandez.
Here.
Michael Hunter.
Here.
Ben Molina.
Present.
Everett Roy is running about 15 minutes late. Greg Smith.
Here.
City Manager Peter Zanoni.
Here.
Assistant City Attorney Buck Bryce. Here. Mayor and council, a quorum of the council and the required charter officers are present to conduct the meeting.
All right. Today, the workshop will be on the hotel occupancy tax collections and programs, Convention Visitors Bureau, American Bank Center, and airport operations. So, Mr. Zanoni, you want to get started?
Yes, sir. Yes, thank you, Mayor and members of the council. Good morning. This is our third budget work session for the FY 2020 budget. And so far, we've held two to date. We talked about public safety 2 weeks ago, and last week we discussed infrastructure and utilities. Today, we have a discussion on our hotel occupancy tax, Convention and Visitors Bureau. We'll hear a briefing from Matt Blasey on the American Bank Center, and then finally, we'll have a briefing on the airport. We'll have the presenters for the first couple of presentations come up simultaneously, one after another. We'll take a break with council questions, and then we'll go to the airport presentation. Our final work session will be next week when we'll discuss parks and recreation, library, health, and other community initiative-related items that are in the budget. This morning, I want to recognize that we do have the Airport Board Chairman here with us, Jay Weiss, as well as Airport Board member Ted Mandel. And thank you for joining us this morning. I had the opportunity yesterday to attend their regularly scheduled board meeting at the airport. And they had a pretty full agenda, and we appreciate what they're doing to provide us advice and other analysis with respect to the airport. Just as a reminder, too, tonight we'll have our fifth community work session on the budget. Tonight we'll be in City Council District 5, hosted by Councilman Hernandez. That's from 6 to 7 at the Garcia Library on Brockhampton Street. This will be our fifth. So after tonight, we'll finalize the comments that we've received over the past 2 weeks from the many residents that have attended and provided some good feedback and their own analysis on the budget. So we'll have a complete report of what was said, and we'll share that with you as well. Just as a reminder, and another business today, the CBB does have their regularly scheduled board meeting. They did move the time slightly to accommodate the salute to the military with Land Commissioner George P. Bush. So their board meeting is at 1:30 today. I'm a member of the board, and I'll be attending that meeting, just as an FYI for you all. So with that, we're ready to start our first presentation. We're going to have Eddie Houlihan is going to provide us an overview of the hotel and the state hotel occupancy tax, and then that'll be followed by, I believe, the American Bank Center presentation. Eddie?
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Eddie Houlihan with the Office of Management and Budget. I have a few slides here for you on the two hotel occupancy tax funds, the state hotel occupancy tax fund, commonly referred to as the SHOT fund, and the other hotel occupancy tax fund. The state fund came into existence in 2016. It is, we get 2% of the 6% the state collects in this fund. We're able to use these funds for some of our inland beaches, whereas in the hotel occupancy tax fund, we're only able to use those funds to clean and maintain our Gulf beaches. The total we get out of these two funds is 11%. It would be 7% for the municipal hotel occupancy tax, and another 2% for convention center expansion, and then the 2% for the state fund. Basically, we have four major uses that we use these funds for: to promote the city and expand tourism, supporting the arts and cultural service, and then beach maintenance and safety, and then for the convention center support. About $5.3 million is expended to promote the city and expand tourism. Most of these dollars go to the Convention and Visitors Bureau. About $1.3 million is in support of the arts and cultural services. We spend almost $4 million to maintain the beaches, both inland and Gulf beaches, and about $4.2 million to support the convention center operations. We also have about $2.4 million in debt in the hotel occupancy tax fund. This debt in 2023, this is about a $2.4 million debt payment. In 2023, a couple of $1 million of that debt payment falls off. And then we have a $200,000 debt payment that runs to about 2030. So a large, significant portion of this debt falls off in fiscal year 2023. This is a slide that shows the outer rings there are for the revenue. So you can see about $12.5 million is the municipal, the 7%. Then we get for the 2% about $3.4 million, and then the state 2% about $3.3 million. Even though the state and the 2% for the convention expansion are the same percentage, the numbers are a little different. There's timing differences, plus also the state has some exemptions that the municipal HOT does not have. The inner part of the graph there shows where the dollars are expended. About $8.5 million for tourism and economic development, the 4.2 for convention center expansion and operations, almost $4 million for the beach. Then the arts and cultural services make up a small $1.3 million. Then the aqua blue portion there is the money that in the state hotel occupancy tax, we didn't expend all of the revenues. Some of those revenues fall to fund balance, and they will be used in the future probably for beach nourishment projects. The positions, or all the positions notated here, are in the state hotel occupancy tax fund for the beach maintenance, lifeguards, compliance officers for safety. And next week, the Parks and Recreation will present, and they will go over the enhancements that we have in this fiscal year budget for that fund. We added, as you can see there, we added almost 7 FTEs for these inland and Gulf beaches for the lifeguards, some lifeguards, and also for some park compliance officers. That's all I have. I'm going to pass the baton over to Matt Blasey, the general manager there at the American Bank Center.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, Mayor McComb and council members. I'm here to discuss the FY20 budget proposal for the American Bank Center. Again, my name is Matt Blasey, General Manager. Our mission statement is, as industry leaders in venue management serving the Coastal Bend community, we are committed to always doing more and providing extraordinary experiences for our clients, guests, and employees. And our mission to do more is carried out by what we call the 5 points of pride: more engagement, more energy, kindness, service, and celebration. Some quick notes in regards to the American Bank Center. This information here is all relevant to FY19. We're on target for about 388 events, and this is forecasted given that there's 2 months still left in the fiscal year. Nearly 475,000 people will come through the doors of the American Bank Center. And then something worth noting in regards to our capital projects this year, that over $4 million of the capital improvement projects that we're doing this year, $4 million is going back into the local businesses of the Coastal Bend. And then when we expand that to the state of Texas, it's almost $7 million. So it's just a nice number, I think, to note as far as what we're accomplishing, not only in improving the facility, but the impact it has on our local and state economy. Our organization, we have 5 directors: Director of Finance, Facilities, Event Services, Food and Beverage, and Sales and Marketing. Also have a full-time human resource manager, and a couple of staff. We have good balance. Our Director of Facilities, Ken Bridgman, and Director of Event Services, Daryl Meadows, have been with the American Bank Center for a long time, and then myself, Lisa, Lou, and going back, Martha, HR has been there a while as well. And so we have kind of good balance of some new blood and some experience in the facility at the leadership. We average, or we're going to be right at 44 full-time members, full-time staff members at the American Bank Center. And even though it's two budgets, the staff is doing everything. So if we have event coordinators, they're not just doing arena, they're getting a lot more efficiency with the staff as far as having all our staff working all the event types and locations. FY19 achievements. What I thought was best for this was to focus on the capital improvement side of and really break that out, because one, the contribution for this current year was significant, especially on the arena side. It was much more than we typically requested and executed in the past. And so I really want to focus on that to show that we're being, one, very strategic with it, and that we are completing our projects on time and overall under budget as well. So as part of our strategic planning with the spending of the capital dollars, we broke it up into three different criteria. The improvements will either increase revenues, reduce expenses, or just improve the patron and client experience. So don't necessarily need to go through all of those. The biggest ones being, I guess, the VIP suite and premium bar are going to be very nice improvements to the kind of keeping the facility with kind of fresh ways to utilize to take advantage of underutilized space to drive more revenues. Reduce expenses. The LED lighting is going to play a key role in that. And that's in the arena. And then improving patron client experience. Our big project that just got underway a few weeks ago is the loading dock expansion. That's a big thing for Buck Days and their parade, as well as when we bring in other shows. It's going to give our ability to provide a better service to those events. And then lastly, the one thing that I wanted to note from an achievement standpoint, which I'll talk a little bit more on a later slide, is strengthening relationships with our arena promoters, and that we had 2 sold-out arena concerts, both KISS and New Kids on the Block. And those, we had not had a sellout concert since 2016. So the fact that we had 2 in just a few months is something to be proud of. Performance indicators. As mentioned on the capital project management, this is showing a recap of where we were for FY18, just under $2.5 million, and then we saw the big increase in 19, of which that estimate is coming in a couple $100,000 under budget, so that's very positive. And then we have $9.3 million. This is all combined between the arena and convention center capital improvement budget. Utilities. This is something that the indicator. In comparison, it's all in line, but the biggest thing to note is when we look at our FY17 actuals, our actual utility cost was over $2 million. So when you're comparing what we're doing, we're over $500,000 decrease in our utilities since FY17 to where we're coming in estimating this year. So that's something that is very significant and worth noting. And then the last one, the number of arena concerts, and this is something from an indicator standpoint, and why I want to focus on this is we're looking at 4 in 19, projecting 5 in 20, and comparing it to the 1 on the in FY18. All of our events that we do, nearly 400 events that we do, have significant value. But the arena, with an effort on reducing the overall subsidy of the facility, the arena concerts is where we're going to, from a strategic standpoint, move the needle on. In theory, conceptually speaking, we'll see an increase in our arena revenues to offset the overall, not going to say but to reduce the overall subsidy on the total facility operation. So our budget is to break even in the arena, and there's a $1.5 million subsidy on the convention center side, where we see the biggest opportunity is trying to get focused on a surplus on the arena side to reduce some of the overall subsidy of the facility. So even though there's 2 budgets, we look at it as one operation. Services, the different type of Events we do, conventions and conferences, concerts, shows, sporting events, and community events. There we go. So our proposed budget for FY20, the biggest contributor is the arena capital projects, which is the 8.1 million. And then then I talked about again, but the convention center is budgeted at a 1.5 loss, 1.5 million loss, and then the arena's budget is to break even. So the green of the chart is the convention center expense, and the revenue, so at 4.2, and 2.7 million in revenues that we're budgeting, so that's where the difference is the 1.5. And then the arena shows a revenue and expense to match at the 2.1, which would show that break even. And then the capital projects on the convention center side, and then the 1.5 million on the city convention center, the hot tax fund to support the subsidy of 1.5 million. So the key projects that we're looking at from a capital improvement side of that 8 million, these projects we're going to highlight today are roughly 50% of probably over 50% of the 8.1 on the arena side. One is a complete overhaul of our locker room and dressing room area. It's very underserved for our main tenants, as well as when we do concerts. For example, we have Mana coming next week. We've had those sold out shows. We don't have the accommodations and amenities to effectively effectively manage that from the talent side of this. We're expanding all the way down the C100 hallways as dressing rooms, and the whole thing is keeping it together. But also for our, with the Texas A&M Corpus Christi, providing them with some better accommodations so they can recruit a better, and the same thing with the Ice Rays, recruit better talent and give them a better experience. And so we are looking to enhance and really those overall locker rooms, as well as provide more dressing room and updates to that space. And then the other big project we're looking at is on the audiovisual improvement for the arena would be a new scoreboard. The current one is the existing one from 15 years ago, and it's repairs, and just the look of it needs an fresh look. So we're looking at two different scenarios. That's why I put two options here. Potentially the one on the left would be what we call a center hung video wall, which typically arenas will do. We have some concerns with the load capacity as far as how much weight our roof can handle, because when we do concerts, the production's becoming more and more, and we can only hang so much stuff. So by adding that, we might potentially lose the ability to do some bigger production shows. So we might go back to this. So the one on the right would be the current location, different facilities, but just giving you a visual that option one is a center hung, and then depending on the weight restrictions, we might just put a newer, little bigger version of the current one that we have. And then lastly, we're really focused on security at the American Bank Center, and we've got significant projects going on this year as well as next year, with a focus on more access point, keyless entry and access points to limit the potential of access to get into the facility without being made aware. So this year we're focused on cameras, increasing our cameras and security access and presence. So, and at this time, I'd like to bring up Paulette. Visit Corpus Christi.
Mayor and Council, while Paulette's approaching, I failed to mention the CBB board members that are here with us also this morning. So we want to thank Melody Nixon Bryce, the board chair, for being here, as well as Ed Cantu. Thank you.
And Tom Schmidt.
Tom, that's right. Hey, Tom.
And Johnny.
And Johnny. Yeah, okay.
Golly, we could have a board meeting. Okay, good morning all. Paulette Kluge with Visit Corpus Christi. Okay, our mission statement It's very simple. It's to drive overnight visitors to the Corpus Christi area. We focus on two different segments. The first one is meetings and conventions, and we have a team that goes out and does sales calls, goes to trade shows to book meetings and conventions for the city of Corpus Christi. We did a study in 17 on the economic impact of the conventions that year, and it was about $26 million. The other big segment that we focus on is individual travel, and individual travel for pleasure, you might guess. 92% of the people that come here for pleasure drive here. We are definitely a drive market. 28% of the people that come here come from San Antonio, 22 from Houston, 10 from Austin, and just below 10% from the Valley. And they enjoy a myriad of so many remarkable activities and attractions. The beach is almost 45% of what people do when they come here. Food is 28%, shopping's 22%, of course all the wonderful attractions. Fishing is 14%. People come here for festivals, special events, and big Christmas trees. So our job is to give travelers in the state of Texas primarily many reasons to come to Corpus Christi. Our only job is to get millions of people to come here with money in their pocket and leave it here for us. So that is our only mission at the CVB. Visit Corpus Christi. I'm going to talk a little bit about some other things that we're in. We have a brick and mortar visitor information center. We call it the VIC. So we have a brick and mortar VIC, but we also have a mobile VIC that we started 2 years ago. And you can see it here on the left. And it goes to consumer shows all over the state of Texas, boat shows. It goes to San Antonio, Houston Valley. It went to a beer fest in Katy, Texas. But it goes where the people are and talks about Corpus Christi and all the things there are to do in Corpus Christi. It also spends time in the marina area answering questions. It goes to conventions and acts as a visitor information center. And it also goes to the beach and hands out brochures, answers questions, and sells beach permits. So that's our VIC, and it's very successful, new addition. Then in the middle, we talk about the number of people that visit Corpus Christi and the Corpus Christi MSA. The Office of the Governor of the State of Texas has an economic development and tourism office. They do an extensive study every single year about who comes here, what they do, how many days they stay. And they do this for every MSA in the state of Texas. It's done by D.K. Shiflett out of McLean, Virginia. So the numbers here are 2017. The 2018 numbers will be out at the end of the month if they come out on time. It takes them 8 months to do the survey for the previous year. So in 2017, 9.95 million people came to the Corpus Christi MSA, and they spent $1.3 billion. To be clear, I want to tell you what the MSA is. It includes 3 counties, Nueces, San Pat, and Aransas. But this is the most comprehensive study done on Corpus Christi and the area, so we use it as a measurement tool year over year. And then the occupancy increase is 6.7% as of June 30th. This is where we are measuring ourselves against pre-Harvey, because many of you have seen the slides where it's like a straight line. It was not a normal year, the year after Harvey. So we are using for this year only the year before Harvey to measure ourselves against, because that's the last normal year. Okay, I'm going to talk about advertising because that's where the majority of our money goes. And our target markets are from Dallas to Waco to Austin to San Antonio, to Houston, the Valley, and down to Monterey. And there's 9.2 million households in our target markets, and the population is 25.5 million people. Our primary targets are San Antonio, Houston, Austin, and the Valley. That's where the majority of the people come from. I'm going to add that in 2020, we will add Waco to our list of cities that we are targeting, and Love Field, to support what the airport is doing, or Southwest Airlines is doing. So we will start advertising first quarter of 2020 in Love Field to remind people there's a direct flight to come to Corpus Christi. In 1819, our traditional advertising amount, the investment was $2.1 million. I love to point out a fun comparison that one 30-second spot for the Super Bowl is about $5 million. And our entire budget is 2.1 for an entire year for an entire city. We love every dime, but advertising's expensive. I'm going to talk a little bit about traditional advertising and where we spend it. Traditional advertising is print, radio, TV, and billboards. Magazines, we are in 10 different magazines, 35 insertions, 5.7 million in readership, 19 million in total reach. We advertise in Texas Monthly and other lifestyle magazines in Austin, San Antonio, Houston. We're also in Texas Highways and Park and Rec. So 10 different mags. Then out of home, we spend a lot of money on billboards. We have 14 by 48 digital billboards in Dallas, Fort Worth, Austin, San Antonio, Houston Valley, and soon Waco, starting next year. We have constant messages that we put out telling all the remarkable, fabulous, fun things there are to do in Corpus Christi, Texas. We talk about festivals, events, attraction, beach, water park, fishing. So there's constant reminders that you should come to Corpus Christi every single weekend of your life for a vacation. On these 17 billboards, 259 million sets of eyeballs can see these billboards every year. So lots of eyeballs on our fabulous billboards. $650,000 is in digital advertising. It's e-commerce, online advertising, all that, those banners, the retargeting site. If you go and think you will like something on eBay and then all of a sudden it's on your phone again, we do that too. So if you like Corpus Christi, it's going to keep coming back to you and retargeting. And then on television, over 6,500 TV spots reaching 10.9 million people. Our new Go campaign has been fabulous, very, very well received. Organizational chart, Erica Lozano Bakta. Oh my gosh, she just got married, Bakta. Anyway, she heads our sales team, and she's remarkable. And she is also responsible for the stakeholder committee. Elvia Aguilar is our business affairs director, and she's in charge of the attractions committee. Heidi Hofta is in charge of the creative team, which does content, produces videos, e-commerce, produces events. So she is the creative team head. And then I, on top of a few other things, am responsible for the marketing committee, hotel owners committee, and legislative committee. All right, some of our achievements: hotel occupancy, revenue per available room, and hot collection are up versus, again, the year prior to the Harvey. Occupancy is up 6.7%, revenue per available room 10.2%, and hot is up 5.2%. So very, very healthy growth in the industry. We hosted the Capacity Summit in July. Many of you were there, and we appreciate that. After the summit, we sent out surveys to everyone that attended, so 123 surveys went out. 40 were completed, so about 34%. The majority of the responses recommended upgrades to the convention center, expansion of the convention center, and an addition of a hotel. We understand this is a very narrow audience. It was a very interested audience. It wasn't a surprise that the people that attended think that we need upgrades to our convention center and the convention center package, that we need to be successful in that industry. Christmas last year, the holidays last year were bright and cheery. We had lots of new programming. We had a 67-foot new tree, thanks to HEB. The American Bank Center did a remarkable job with programming, as did the Downtown Management District. We saw our occupancy go up 9.9% this last December versus the one before Harvey because of all of the additional programming that was done in December. And then we've been working on an island initiative study, research project, survey for the last 8 or 9 months, and it's now complete. Corpus Christi is really kind of unique in that we're a regular city in parts of the city. We have banks and hospitals, and we're a regular city. We just happen to go over a bridge and we're on an island. And it's very different part of our city, very unique, needs to, we feel, potentially be identified, have a tag that makes it easier for us to advertise and promote it in a very special way. So we did a pretty in-depth research project that is now complete and is ready to present soon. So we're pretty excited about that. Hot collection, Harvey year 12.2, gigantic year. This year it's estimated 11.8, and then there'll be a 2% increase of hot to right at 12 million for next year. Occupancy increases 7.9, the Harvey year up 4.8. This year is what we're estimating, and then 3% for next year. Group room nights contracted, 60,000 was the goal in 18. We booked 61,466. Goal this year is 61,000. Goal next year is 61,000. We expect to make this year with a couple of little miracles, but we're good with miracles. Visitors to Corpus Christi, 9.9. We've been through that. We think it'll go up when the new survey comes out, study comes out at the end of the month to 10 million, and we expect our industry to continue growing. The star reports are crazy fabulous right now. We're getting huge growth on Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, which is a new trend that has been going on for several months. So it's very, very, very encouraging. It's great. And July, I have to say this, but we just got July in last night, and July beat 17, which is when we had FFA, which is the biggest convention we've ever had. It was here for a week. So this July beat the FFA July. So that's by 3%. So great numbers. Okay, and this is the budget. Most of our budget comes from HOT. That's in HOT, and then we also have a CEF fund that we use. So almost all of it. We do also have co-op advertising that we get. Marketing and payroll is $1 million, and that's the sales team, social media team, events team, website team, all of that wonderful team. So that's about $1 million. We have hosting, event hosting expenses. We have to pay for transportation and meeting room rental for some of the groups because we don't have a hotel next to the convention center, and so they have to get on buses. And in other cities that doesn't happen. So in order to compete, we have to pay for expenses they wouldn't have in other cities. Website. We are ready for a new website. Our website's 5 years old, and it's like electronics websites. As soon as it's launched, there's new technology that is available. So 5 years is about when you need to start looking for a new website. So there's money in the budget to start the RFP process for a new website. Advertising, and we've talked about public relations. We have people that are on the road that go to the Valley, San Antonio, Houston, and do media tours and go on TV and talk about Corpus Christi. So those expenses are in there also. There's $50,000 in research in order to pay for any research that might be needed for the convention center to continue working on that project. So $50,000 is in the budget for that. And trade shows, that's for the sales team when they go to trade shows and bid on new business. And then our plan, this is always our plan, grow, 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 more, more, more. So we are occupancy grow by 3%, revenue per available room by 6%, and then hot collection by 5. The hot budget increases by 2, but it is a huge focus for us to keep the average daily rate up and more revenue. In years past, we have had little rate wars, and we've had seminars that we've done with the University of Houston. We have professors come here and talk that the same number of people come, and if you drop your rate, you're just going to make less money. So we continue, a huge focus for us in our industry is to make sure we're continuing to grow the rate. So budget is 2%. Our goal is to increase hot by 5%. Thank you.
Mayor, that concludes the first set of presenters. So at this point, if you have questions, we'll take those, and then after that, we'll finalize with the airport presentation.
All right. Excuse me, any council members have any questions on any of the presenters? Mr. Hernandez?
Okay, I do have some questions on the hot tax. I know, do we exclusively get our lifeguards for the beaches from the state hotel occupancy taxes? And let me preface this because we've had some probably more high-profile drownings this year, and I don't know if I know we have some more money geared towards lifeguards. I heard you mention that, but I mean, is this the exclusive place where we get that funding for?
Yes, for the beach lifeguard, yes. For the inland beaches, we'd get most of it from the SHOT. For the Gulf beaches, some of it from the SHOT and some of it from the HOT fund.
Okay. We might want to take a look at manning levels for lifeguards. I mean, I don't know if we can do it for this budget, but maybe if we look at that, because I mean, it is. There's a lot in combination here, and this is a long-term thing. I want to make sure that we're looking at parks and recreations and learn to swim programs, so we have that in place. I mean, as a coastal community, we should have that in place, but also make sure we have the lifeguards on the beaches necessary to address some of these concerns. I mean, I know we've had a lot of rip currents here lately, so it's important that we address that as a community.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we are. In fact, this summer we increased the lifeguard strength by a few, but we need to do long-term look at next year and following years, next season. So we're working with Jamel and Keith on doing that.
Okay. Maybe we look at other sources of revenue for that as well, besides just the state hotel occupancy tax. Okay, thank you, Eddie. On the American Bank Center, I did have a question on your projected revenues. It looks like you're down by projecting $530,000 down on sales revenue. Is that correct?
Yes, and one thing is to give a better understanding of how we structure our budget. What we'll do, the first thing we do is assess our indirect expenses, so indirect operating expenses not tied into our event revenue, so the staff and utilities, things like that, to where and then the city's expectation from a budget standpoint is the 1.5 million budget loss on the convention center side and a break even on the arena side. So what we do is we drill down into our expenses and then assess what we've done on the event side of things as well, recent events from that existing year, and then we will put our budget expectations on the revenue side to match what we're doing from the expense side. So our focus is to drive our revenues, but strictly from a budget standpoint, we're not a operation that we're going to say we're so event driven on our revenues and the event types that we bring in that we don't forecast or budget high on the revenue side. So we're really focused on getting that budget to what the city's expectations are with a focus and emphasis on the expense side of it.
Okay, so maybe I was not aware of this. So this is not based on what your projected sales are. It's based on the calculation, based on what you're looking at with
It's a balancing thing. So we will assess where we're at, and I don't actually I do have current It's a little bit of both. We're focused on the expense and coming down, establishing a number based on those overall budget expectations, but I did not highlight it here, but
Okay, because, I mean, forgive me if, I'm not in this business per se,
Right.
but I assume that doing these concerts and those things are long-term, long-out projected scheduling.
no.
How far out?
And that's good. Like, we start our budget,
No, I meant for sales, right?
No, what I'm saying is we begin the budget process 3-4 months ago. We are not, like, I'm right now trying to book shows for this fall and then early 2020 right now. So we're budgeting based on recent history as well as, how things are going, because we could have 5 arena shows and then 2 the next year. So it's not we can hang our hat on these bigger events. So it's a combination of anticipating what we're going to do, because there's, like, I'm anticipating our arena traffic in 20 to be better than it was in 19.
Okay, so maybe I'm, take a step back, been in the sales business for a long time, so I project sales. So what is your projected goals for example, arena shows? What is it your sales goal?
Yeah, from a budget standpoint, it's
It's outside of budget.
Right.
You have a sales goal for these things.
So, our goal, there's other elements than just the show side of it. There's sponsorship, things like that. So I would like to see, on a consistent basis, us having a surplus on the arena side of $200,000 to $300,000. Are we budgeting for that in FY20? No. Will we budget for that in 21? No. We'll always have it as a break even. But our actual goals and what we budget are 2 separate things on the revenue side.
Okay. All right, that was my main question there. Thank you.
I guess the other way to look at it is we could, if we focus more on the revenue side and showed a surplus, we would, to have the break even on the arena side, show a surplus on our operating expense to show a break even. And we're really, we've cut our expenses significantly on the operating from the last 2 years compared to what it was, 2 years ago. So. Okay.
And I'll circle back with you on a private conversation as to your operations and stuff and your sales goals and that kind of stuff. I'll get that at a later time, but thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. And for Visit Corpus Christi, had only, and this might be more of a finance question. I know we were looking to do some hot collection with Airbnb, and I'm just wondering if that was reflected in this budget.
Right.
Eddie?
No, the answer is no, it's not reflected in the budget.
Okay, so we may actually have more income coming here than as we're projecting.
Correct. If we try to collect a hotel occupancy tax from the Airbnb type businesses, yes, you would.
Okay, and I know our attorneys were looking at possibly doing that. I was wondering if we had, we'll get it up.
Yeah, we briefed the council last week, I believe, so soon, Miles, we'll have something on the council agenda, in fact.
Okay, and one last question for you is that I know you had, on your presentation, you had digital advertising, but I didn't get quite into that, and I was looking at what exactly you do for that.
I'd rather you come and see the whole plan, but it's banner advertising, it's hotel, Chronicle in Houston Chronicle, it's on travel sites, it's the list is long. It's keyword buys, it's banners, it's retargeting, it's boosting posts on social media. So it's, there's lots.
Probably need to ask it on your return on your investment on some of those advertising, but we'll leave that for another
That'd be great.
question. Thank you.
Mr. Smith?
Thank you for Mr. Blasey. Matt, you showed in 2019 473,000 in attendance. What are your trends?
We're typically right around 450 to 500. We've had some years of higher than that, but I would say average attendance is typically right around the 475.
So we're just kind of staying on a constant then?
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to the impact events. I think attendance and number of events is one thing, but again, going back to the arena, the drawing more of the higher impact events, we'll see an increase in that, as well as on the convention center side, the getting more conventions in. That's where we see the higher numbers there. So we're working hard to increase all of that, but yeah, I mean, I think that's where we've been pretty, I would say, consistent over the last 4 or 5 years around that number.
But our goal is to go up, right?
I'm sorry? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, yes, we
Well,
want to get
you're
as many
into it.
people through those doors as possible. I'm not as much focused on number of events. I know that it's one of our benchmarks.
It's the people that...
Yeah, well, it's two things. It's the deals that we're structuring to have it make sense financially to do a lot of these events that we have been doing. But yeah, our ultimate goal is getting people in the doors and economic impact for the events that we're doing. And we
Well,
realize that all of them don't have the impact, but that's our focus.
And thank you for the expense control. I can see it in your utility bills, almost a $200,000 savings, and it's not the American Bank Center icebox anymore.
Right. Well, we're working through some energy efficiency elements as well.
And thank you for doing that, and thanks to staff. And I'd like to comment to Councilman Hernandez on that's it, Matt, on the lifeguards. I think at the last count we had 28 rescues this year with it. We average about 4 deaths in our Gulf beaches every year with it. And when I say in our Gulf beaches, that's not Corpus Christi's beach, that's Port Aransas beach, that's our beach, that's the county's beach. So taking that regional approach, I know, Mr. Zanoni, you've been working with the county. The Bob Hole area is a hot area. We've had several deaths there. That's not within Corpus Christi purview, but when it comes to a life, I don't think we should be worrying about that with it. So thank you for the work that you're doing with the county, and I hope we do put more emphasis out there. And most of these deaths are out-of-town deaths, so they don't realize that Gulf of Mexico's got a real big mean streak in it. And yeah, so thank you, and I agree. We need to have emphasis on that.
I don't know if you're aware, but Billy Delgado with Emergency Management has come up with the reverse alert system, and we're going to roll it out into all the hotels. So as somebody checks into a hotel in Corpus Christi, they'll be able to download the app, the reverse alert, and then you can check what you want to know. And if it's about riptides or currents or anyway, it is in the works and rolling that out. So everybody that comes here to visit Corpus Christi will have that. So I just there's more than one group working on this, and I just wanted you to know.
Well, and thank you very much, Paulette. You may save some lives by that.
Mr. Roy?
Yes. First of all, thank you for your presentations. My question is for Matt. Last year, you talked a little bit about trying to expand and attract some of the Broadway-type shows, and you said that it could take up to maybe a couple years to see results. And I just kind of wondered where you're at with that.
Yeah. Well, that's been a lot of back and forth. We do have, with those funding opportunities, I've been able to establish a partnership with a Broadway theatrical company, of which the dollars helped gain interest for the facility, but there's been a lot of back and forth. We do have one that we'll be announcing in the very near future that would be a nice event, a nice show for us, but it's just a matter of there's a lot of, there's potential of having 3 or 4 shows in the 1920 year, of which 2 of them ended up falling on the exact same day, so we lost one. But the traffic is there, the interest is there. It's just a matter of getting, and we want to also do the right shows. We don't want to just start adding. So it's taking, to answer your question, it's taking a little bit longer than what I was hoping for. But with those funds, I've been able to structure a better deal for these groups so they're interested again in Corpus Christi.
Okay, and then that kind of leads into my next question, and this is kind of an overall. When you're out discussing, trying to bring different venues to the city, what, if any, I mean, are maybe one of the top 3 reasons, do you end up usually saying, well, we can't make that work because of budget, or, you know, we can't, or is there a lack of interest in people coming to Corpus Christi, those type of events or concerts? I know you've increased your concerts, which is great, but I'm just trying to understand, like, if when you get pushback, what is the number one thing that you're hearing?
I mean, I wouldn't call it pushback. I mean, the big part of the industry, like anything else, is relationships. And so we're getting back and getting the right relationships going. But it's more about the numbers behind it. So certain shows are based on how many seats we have and the average ticket price, and can the market, you know, cover that. But we seem to, our biggest challenge is we have a narrower scope on what promoters and artists are looking to bring to us. So some of the kind of more diverse stuff is a challenge because it hasn't had great success in sales, and so it really comes down to numbers. So it's, and then the other issue is the routing. We are obviously very south, and it when you look at major cities in Texas, you know, the natural routing is Austin, San Antonio, back to Houston. So we really have to incentivize them to come to a, you know, a mid-market. We're not obviously a major market for these, so it's incentivizing them to keep coming south and make Corpus a play. But the success that we had in this current year is playing into more opportunities for shows. Like, I'm not trying to oversell it, but I've got like 3 or 4 other shows that I'm working for in 2020 that, you know, I put a good chance of getting that, you know, 2 or 3 of them could be sellout concerts. So it's just a matter of gaining the momentum. We had a good year and building that. So it's nothing really specific. You know, it's more just the numbers of it all, really. Our capacity plays into it. A lot of arena shows need more seats than what we have, which then drives that average ticket price up higher. So there's a lot of things, but it's not anything specific to us.
There's not one particular. Okay.
No, it's all about relationships and leverage and incentivizing them to bring the shows here. And that's where the marketing funds and the convention center side, where we have some dollars to work with to incentivize, that's what's really helping us get back in the game.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Gardner?
Thank you, Mayor. First off, just want to thank y'all for your presentations. Appreciate the information. I guess the questions that I have are for Paulette. Okay. Thank you, Matt. You mentioned promoting or advertising the direct flights from Love and trying to attract visitors. But I had heard somewhere, and I don't know where I heard it from, I've been so many places the last few days, that they were Southwest was going to end that program in December, and if we're going to start advertising in January.
I had not heard that, so maybe the airport.
I don't know if that's accurate or not, to be honest with you at all. But I just
we want to support Southwest Airlines in their getting us a direct flight, and we're going to try it for 3 months. Dallas-Fort Worth is our next market we would go into, because we were San Antonio, then we went to Houston, now we went to the Valley. In Dallas and Fort Worth, with the 130, the toll road, and really educating it takes 5 to 6 hours to get here. I mean, the beach is really close to Dallas and Fort Worth. So anyway, we're going to try it. We just think we need to support the airport, Southwest Airlines, in trying to get additional flights, direct flights to Dallas-Fort Worth.
Yeah, if you're planning to do that, I mean, it'd be great to communicate with Southwest and just figure out if maybe they can extend the offering for additional months to see how that program and additional advertising might help their numbers, their employments. The other question I had is the increase in revenue, and I guess I'm just maybe trying to get into the weeds a little bit, but in the visitors to Corpus Christi, I mean, looking at the room nights for meetings, 61,000 is flat. The visitors to Corpus Christi, 10 million to 10.2 million, represents a 2% increase, yet we're trying to target growing occupancy by 3%, revenue by 6%, and hot collection by 5%.
Yes, sir.
And I know that the room rates go up. We're able to get more per room when we have the big events, the Buck Days, July 4th.
Meetings, conventions, and
Yes.
whenever there's excess demand, rates, of course, go up. Fiesta de la Flor, the Wings Over Texas, all of those sort of events, yes, increase the demand, which increases the rate.
So the question that I have is that in addition to the events that we're already having, are there additional events scheduled? I mean, how are we going to increase that revenue per available room rate when that 6%'s quite a bit more than the 2% projected in visitors?
Okay, I'm not sure I really understand, but, so try again. Tell me ask me the question.
Okay, in page 22, we've got a 2% increase in the number of visitors. The room nights contracted for meetings is flat, 61,000 from 1 year to
Right, but
year
that's
on
just
year.
the meetings, contracted meetings is for 2023, 2025, 2027. So, and that's a small percentage of the rooms that are occupied in the city, right?
Okay, so that number's not,
It's not
for 1
what's going to
year. It's not
happen
for
in
1
the
year.
year,
Okay,
no.
all right, okay.
So we're right now working on 23, 24, 25. Anything that's happening in 2020 was booked, I don't know who was talking about it, but, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago.
okay, thank you very much.
Oh, good.
Thanks for educating me. I appreciate that. Thanks.
Sure.
Okay, sure. Bye.
Okay, Mr. Blasey, where'd you go? Let me get on the convention center thing. And I hope you give me the right answer
Uh-oh.
to see if my assumption is correct.
Okay.
On the capital project sheet here on page 10, pretty substantial from 2018 to 2019. And I'm hoping, or I'm going to, that's a result of the tweaking we did a year or so ago in terms of giving you or your people the ability to get some projects done as opposed to shipping them over to the city and having to wait a year to get approval or sign off. Would that be a fair assessment?
Yeah,
We just had some projects that came along that
100%. We had a lower budget amount in 18, of which we were handling probably about 50% of the oversight of the projects. For 19, and these are close to what the actual budgets were, but in 19 we saw a significant increase, $6 million more in projects, of which we oversaw 100% of them, and we are on track to complete 9, like out of that, the 2.5, we did not, the projects that we didn't control went a little farther into it this year. But for the current year, we are going to be under budget and tracking to hit all of our marks. Loading dock is going to take a little longer than when we were hoping, but overall every project's going to get done and under budget to the whole scope of the capital. And the other thing worth noting too is from the engineering services fees that were going into that, there's no additional fees out of that, like out of that 2.5, some of it was getting billed back to engineering services. With us managing it, there's no transfer of organizing or of oversight. So 100% of those funds are going into actual capital projects. And so it's a better return on the dollars as well. So that's when you look at these numbers, that's a significant, excess of, maybe, I don't want to overstate it, but probably around $200,000 that can be put into actual projects for the venue at these numbers.
that was the right answer. Thank you. At least that's what I was hoping you'd
Yeah.
say. So good. All right. Well, thank you so much. Gil mentioned and Greg addressed it on the lifeguard thing. The manager, I think, and the county judge have talked in terms of working together with the county to try to address that, particularly next year's budget. And I'm hoping that's reflective in our city's budget as well, if those negotiations are still ongoing, to try to get that addressed, because I think everybody wants to make sure we have no drownings, if that's possible, and a consistency in terms of the lifeguard availability and the ability to move them around where the activity is. And the county's contacted you, and I think working with Jamel, is he here?
Jamel's not here
No.
this morning. Keith is,
But-
yeah. Yes, Mayor, right. So we, as Councilman Smith mentioned, and actually you brought to my attention, we worked with the county to provide a city lifeguard at the Bob Hall Pier about 2 weeks ago through this Labor Day weekend that's coming up. And so that's coverage that wasn't there before in that county section of the beach, and that's there today. And we are beginning to talk with the county, and the budget's not reflective of the final agreement that we'll have. So if we have to make any adjustments, we'll come back to the city council to adjust the budget. But our goal is to work with the county to look at coverage and costs, make sure we're not duplicating or being wasteful of either the county or the city's money. But in the end, to have the best coverage that we can have for the protection of the resident and visitor along that whole beach line.
All right. I don't see any other lights up, so thank all of you very much. Do we want to take a 2 or 3 minute break, or do you want to just move right into your next
It's at
section?
your pleasure, Mayor. If you want to take a quick break, that's fine.
What's the pleasure? Just keep going? All right, let's just keep going if
Okay,
everybody's
let's just
comfortable
keep
with that.
going then. We'll have airport, then Fred's going to come up and provide our airport presentation this morning.
Thank y'all very much. Oh, one other thing, Mr. Blasey, just thank you. I had it down here to mark it for your Christmas in South Texas, or what did you do last year? And I think you're going to do that a little bigger. That seemed to be a pretty good, successful project last year.
Yeah, it was a very successful project, of which this year, we learned some things last year, and we're really excited about the impact it's going to have this year. So we're really excited to launch that in the very near future as far as what we're going to be doing with it. But
And what are you calling it?
Coastal Christmas.
Coastal Christmas.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah, it was a very, very nice project. Thank you. All right. Buckle your seatbelts, ladies and gentlemen.
Mayor, Council, Fred Segundo, Director of Aviation, and I'll be doing the Aviation Department presentation. If I can get this going. This is our mission statement. It says that we will provide access to air transportation and aeronautical services, but if you look at that, that's only 8 words. But those 8 words do allow us the flexibility to do our job. It's very comprehensive, especially the aeronautical service component of that. About aviation, the airport encompasses 2,700 acres of land. It provides access and support to 31 tenants from both the government and a private sector. Commercial airlines, general aviation, and military conduct over 100,000 aircraft operations annually at the airport as well. The airport also has 5 rental car concessions that provide customers with 8 rental car brands that include Enterprise, Alamo, National, Hertz, Budget, Dollar, and Thrifty. The airport also has a direct and indirect economic impact of $782 million for the city of Corpus Christi and the Coastal Bend. There we go. The airport operation has 82 FTEs. Our organization chart is revised at a minimum on an annual basis. We have 1 director, 1 assistant director, 5 managers, 1 public safety chief as our executive team. In FY20, to accomplish those tasks that we talked about, the assistant directors and marketing managers will both focus on working on air service development together. We also are aggressively going to recruit to ensure that the airport orgs that provide 24-hour service at the airport will have sufficient employees to do their job. And although the airport significantly has reduced overtime from 2011 to 2018, we will be developing policies and procedures to ensure that overtime at the airport stays in check. Some of our achievements. It took a while, but we do now have a new rental car lease that we'll be bringing to council sometime in September for approval. The new agreement will provide us with some additional rental cars, including Budget. Budget is going to be a new brand, and also we'll have some additional revenue as well. We also completed the Phase 1 installation for the LED lights at the parking lot. We also have a pilot program for the terminal exit lane, and in FY19, that exit lane program was upgraded with new high-tech sensors. It was evaluated and tested by Safe Sky Company and funded by Horton Analytics. This update will increase security inside the terminal. We also managed to purchase and install some PA system. The system provides ADA compliance messaging for our customers, and also has several other features as well. We also purchased an articulating lift that will help our airport do maintenance for items like light poles, windows, trimming trees, those type of uses. This is not in the slide, but recently the National Weather Service Center has designated all the city-owned airport buildings as storm-ready facilities as well. Some of our goals. Like I said, we're going to be doing a lot of airport security planning. When we start, we should have the strategic plan completed somewhere in early FY20. If successful, the strategic plan should help us use growing air service. It'll also address the need for more demand for new expanded air service, reducing leakage, and changing the dynamic of the traditional approach of air service growth. We also are going to concentrate on low-cost carriers, and we'll also continue to talk with our 3 commercial airlines about additional routes. In FY22, we will begin to update the airport master plan. Our current master plan was last updated in 27. The FAA preferred that we updated the master plan after all our airfield infrastructure projects were complete, and we should be done with that in 2021. But until that, airport staff and city manager will continue to use and review our current master plan. Performance. Our performance measures were estimated using a 3-year average and working with our aviation consultants as well. We anticipate FY19 employments going down a bit due to severe weather in Houston and Dallas and the canceling of many flights, the ongoing struggle of leakage to San Antonio and Houston, and the lack of low-cost carriers at our airport. We could still level off on this trend with some of the capacity growth that the American Airlines will be bringing in fourth quarter. We anticipate FY20 could rebound as well if American capacity stays steady and the economy kind of grows. Also, keep in mind that the FY employment statistics that I'm giving, as opposed to the calendar employment statistics that we typically show the council. I just don't want you folks to get confused. But that is what we're taking a look at. Also, we have. I'm sorry. Although we do not fly large amounts of air cargo at the airport, since FY18, air cargo has been steady and should continue to be steady through FY20 as well. The majority of the cargo that flows in and out of the airport is done by Southwest. They fly lots of flowers, fish, oil, gas, those type of items. The aircraft operations should also remain steady as long as the military operations have sufficient funding. The military, as you know, accounts for 60% of operations at the airport. Services. Our maintenance facility services maintain all the airport buildings and vehicles at the airport. They also mow airfield in compliance with FAA standards. They paint runways, taxiways, aprons, those type of things. Operation services ensure that the airfields are safe and secure for operations. The FAA does inspect and certify our airfields on an annual basis. Managed property services ensure leases, agreements, appraisal fees, grant assurances are in compliance with FAA and city policies and procedures. In the plan and development services, plan expansions for air service, terminals, airfields, facilities, roads, in non-aeronautical development as well. The aviation budget is proposed for $9.9 million. As you can see, the aviation portion provides 41% of the revenue. Our terminal concessions account for 32%. Parking and ground transportation account for 22%, and non-aviation and miscellaneous accounts for 5%. The colored chart. Okay, I think I'm right here. The color chart shows our expenditures. As you can see, the managing the airport operations account for 57%. Maintenance, airport facilities, 29%. Development and planning account for 7%, and managing all leases and properties account for 1%. And of course, debt service accounts for 6% as well. Some of the highlights that we have, our airport terminal is almost 20 years old, and some of the internal and external systems have failed. The airport staff and Trillium Aviation put together a preliminary terminal assessment back in 2015. When we took that preliminary assessment to the FAA for review, after some negotiation, the FAA committed to funding FAA terminal assessment. We started to push funding to them for FY20. Unfortunately, the FAA did not have funding for us in FY20. In order to stay on schedule, we are recommending this project to be put on the next FY20 adopted budget. The budget impact for this project is $350,000. The funding for this project is available through our airport fund balance. FAA, the assessment should reveal how much funding the airport will need to modernize the airport in the future. As I said, the FAA has committed to reimburse the terminal assessment, but we do not have a date for reimbursement as well. So, second one is, this is a wildlife management module. We will be purchasing wildlife module that will provide historical tracking for birds, species, archive, wildlife operations, has some heat maps, searchable archive locators, they can get dates, locations, all of those things that we need for wildlife management. This module will complement the existing fuel and operations logs from the ProDigit module. Kind of the only reason I put this in here is just to kind of highlight you and make you aware that the airport is leveraging technology to make our department more efficient. And with that, I'll take some questions.
Ms. Guajardo?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Segundo, I was just curious, have we thought of, or what do we do in terms of marketing to advertise, if you will, that this is the place to come, and not necessarily this is the place to come, but this is how to get here as far as the airport's concerned, or do we? Do we focus on that at all? And my point is this, have we ever thought of partnering up, say, with the CVB to accomplish what we want through you and what their mission is?
And I did bring my marketing manager.
Right.
I'm sorry. No, but we do have a good relationship with the REDC and several of these organizations. But one of the things that we have to be very careful of is how we use our funding. The FAA allows us to work kind of in a very small silo when we're talking about marketing. Marketing has to be something that will increase or make something better at the airport. Quick example is if we want to go and put something advertising the airport, we can only put it on an airport. We can't basically put money and say, come and see the beach or something like that. So there's some restrictions, but I'll let Kim.
Just to add to what Fred said, the FAA does not allow the airport to
I'm
use...
sorry, will you turn your microphone on at the base of the microphone?
Oh, okay, yeah. This?
Yep.
Sorry about that. The FAA rules do not allow the airport to use airport revenue to advertise Corpus Christi as a destination. So we can't use airport funds, say, to go outside of our Coastal Bend region. The money that we spend on marketing has to specifically be to market to the local community, the convenience of the airport, and encouraging local citizens to use the airport. So that's how we use marketing funds currently.
Okay, so is there, I guess if there's a way to partner, though, to create a campaign for the Corpus Christi Coastal Bend area, and, you know, it's a social media, a campaign, Fly to Corpus Christi, and partner with what they're doing, because it's very much, I mean, it relates to each other, you know, in many ways.
It does relate, and I will tell you, just for example, right now, we're doing a 3-month retargeting campaign. So what we're doing, if you're online and you're searching for airfare out of San Antonio, but you live in this region, our campaign is designed to capture you, serve you an ad, ask you to click through. It goes straight to our trip calculator, which explains how sometimes, even though it may seem cheaper to fly out of San Antonio or Houston, it's not always as cheap as you think it is when you add up all the additional costs for driving. And so we do these ever so often. We have a relatively small budget, but we're doing a 3-month campaign right now where we are targeting people in our region specifically who are looking to San Antonio and Houston to book their airfare online.
Well, and that was my next question. So what is the budget for marketing?
The budget for marketing through admin is $60,000 a year, and typically we spend about a third of that on promoting the airport, on PR and promotional activities such as Run the Runway, also tours and events that we host at the airport. We spend about a third of it on marketing, on actual advertising, and then we spend another third supporting and sponsoring chamber events, Black Chamber events, the air show, those sort of things that have sort of a natural tie-in between the airport and the business and aviation community.
Okay. Well, I just think that it's a great avenue if somehow within your guidelines and theirs, they can include maybe, the services through airfare here, air flight.
And we've worked with, and I'm sorry that Paulette was not aware that the Dallas Love service is ending at the end of the year. You may remember when Southwest announced that they were doing the Saturday-only service to Dallas Love. We were included in with about 7 other routes that they announced for that one-day-a-week service. And immediately, when we found out that, we started to work with the CVB, and that's why Pettis Advertising, the Visit Corpus Christi's advertising company, immediately started talking to Dallas Love and seeing if there was a way for us to advertise at Dallas Love. Because even aside from the direct flight that we currently have on that Saturday, people inside an airport are travelers. They're going places, they're spending money, they're flying places. And so it's a great market to advertise in, just as a lot of businesses advertise inside our airport. And so we do collaborate them, but just since I brought that topic up and the question was asked earlier, the service was always intended to be seasonal. They don't always tell us whether seasonal means 2 months, 3 months, or 6 months, but it is considered a seasonal exit from the market in January, but that does not mean that they won't bring it back. Typically, Southwest does not do less than daily service. Those of you who fly Southwest, they're not like the low-cost carriers where they do once or twice, but they're kind of dabbling in that market right now. And we really viewed the Dallas Love Saturday only as kind of an experiment on their part. And our goal, while this service is still in place through the rest of the year, is to make it as successful as we possibly can, to promote it. We're doing that on social media. The CVB is going to help us well, and even though it seasonally ends at the end of the year, there's a very good chance it'll come back. So any advertising dollars that the CVB can throw at it, we think is a great thing, and we're real excited about it.
And as you can see, she's also on air service development as well.
Yeah.
Is that it? Oh, Mr. Hunter?
Thank you, Mayor. That is interesting because every airport that you go to says visit Houston, visit pretty much all of them. So is that the CVB working with those airports? Is that really the only way to do it? Is there any other methods that we could work on to? Is there anything we need to do at the city? Do we need to go get the FAA's president or something down here? But is there anything outside the box that we can start figuring out there? Because when you're talking about visiting a location and you want your airport traffic to go up, it does seem like that's the dollars that you're spending it on in the first place.
Yeah.
I mean,
right. And the way to do that, the way to develop our community, and again, this is looking at it from an airport and airline perspective, but the way to develop the community as a fly-in destination, it really would take a tremendous amount of marketing dollars. And again, the airport, even if we had the funds to spend on it, we can't spend airport revenue that way. That typically is done by a broader community consortium. And not by airports.
It's interesting. I did not know that. Thank you. And I just had a quick question. What you mentioned earlier, the military is part of 60%?
60%. There's 100,000 operations annually, and they They do 60% of that, 60,000
So
operations, absolutely. What they do is, and the reason they do 60 is they train on the weekends. The traffic folks up at the air stations don't, they are not there for air traffic. And so what they do is they go to the airport, so because we do have a tower, by the way, I'm sorry. So, yes, and on any weekend, you can go there and there'll be
So you were just
maybe
talking
12
about
or 15.
takeoff and landings, though,
Yes,
were you referring
taking
to
off and
cargo
landings,
and
yes.
everything as
Yeah.
well? Is it total revenue, 60% military related? It couldn't be that.
No, it's just
I'm
the
just making
operation
sure.
portion.
Just
of
the
it.
operations, okay.
Operation portion of it.
Just making sure. Thank you. That's all I had.
Yeah.
Making sure I got my notes right.
Mr. Hernandez?
Yeah, real quick question. And looking at your budget, you have about $760,000 budgeted through various divisions on professional services. I want to get a clear idea as to what you're spending that on.
Okay. Where is that?
I can be a little more specific here for you.
Where's the?
Okay, if you're looking at air operations, you're spending $112,668 on professional services. In airport public safety, $31,800 on professional services. On facilities, $3,900 on professional services. On airport parking, $375,924 on professional services. $47,000 on development and construction. $191,471 on airport administration for professional services. If I can get an idea of what you're spending that on.
Yes, my name is Nicole Zapata. I'm the Finance and Administration Manager for the airport. So kind of the big ones, the $375,000 for parking, that's for the management of our parking lot. So we outsource that management with Republic Parking, and so that's their annual operating budget that we pay them for the year to manage the parking lot. One of the other big ones for administration, we do work with L&B, our consultants, and that's about $120,000 a year that we pay, and that's out of professional services. We also have our security guards for our rental cars. That one is about $130,000 that we pay on annual, and that contract is going to be up for renewal as well, and we're going to move to 24/7. I believe right now we're not at that, which 24/7 presence will help with our security overnight, or when people are trying to return their cars and it's off business hours, we'll have someone there. I'm trying to see which. We do budget for some of the other ones are like our fingerprinting services. Whenever we have people that come on, either tenants or employees, we do run background services, and they do their fingerprinting that gets sent to the FBI, and we pay part of that fee as well. Let me see what else. I mean, those are kind of the ideas. I can
Right,
keep going down a list. I don't know if you want
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Your revenue for your parking isn't split out. Or what's your revenue for your parking versus the cost?
Let me see that one. Get to that slide. Oh, you have it up? Oh. So our parking lot,
Should be about.
it's about $2 million that we bring in. That's
Nice.
for parking,
Very
covered
nice.
parking, and- yeah.
Very nice. Okay, well, there's also about just a little over $60,000 in computer expenses. And I know we have some going to our IT department. What is that in addition to that? Is it something separate that you're spending that on? that is, I mean, is,
We have a lot of software that's kind of standalone for the airport. It's more for security measures, so for.
Access control.
Like our card readers, yeah, access control, the module that he talked about, the wildlife. We do report our part of the FAR, and I don't know, Fred, if you want to speak more, the Part 139, we report those, are they operations or, that our operations go and do? I don't know if you want to speak more on that.
Yeah.
But that's part of the software that we use to report to the FAA. I'm trying to think what more.
And we also have our own IT folks as well. And we have a lot of software for cameras, a whole bunch of other stuff. And so that use computers and those type of things as well.
is there a reason why you can't use IRT department associated with that?
Well,
I mean,
they do help us when our IT folks, but these are softwares that really are just airport types, and we train them to do that and those type of things. If there is some other issues like a telephone or whatever, they'll come and help us with some of those.
And part of it that's actually, I think, to a benefit is we're less open for hacking, cyber hacking, that type of joke, because it's a closed network.
Is what we're
Okay.
doing. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Smith?
Thank you. Thank you, staff. Fred, could you expand? You said Americans going to be expanding their service.
No, just some capacity.
Some
Yes,
capacity.
They'll be bringing some just capacity. They're not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. In the
Yeah.
last quarter of the year.
Last quarter of the
They'll be
year,
adding
they're going
seats.
to
Okay.
give us a little bit more capacity. And so we hope that kind of ticks it up a little bit.
Well, and yeah, so you can look, there's a direct relationship between employments and capacity on there.
Yeah.
Capacity goes up, employments go up. You're on the CVB board?
Yes.
Okay. I'm seeing a little bit of your CVV's finding out about Southwest service being.
Yes, and it was just.
Yes, and actually, and I said I wish that Paulette had known. I did speak with Mr. Pettis, who
Okay.
he and I have been collaborating on the advertising at Dallas Love, and so I let him know. In fact, he's out of the country right now, but I let him know about it so that he was aware and could make conscious decisions based on that.
Yeah, that's just a communication glitch, and we'll
Yeah.
take care of it. We should have.
Yeah, and
So,
with the capacity increase, so
exactly.
that's important. And just one comment, you mentioned $700 and something million in impact that we're doing, and you internally are spending $20,000 on marketing, for that. I think we as a community, this is so important. If it's a $700 million impact, what we ought to be doing to try to promote those employments. We've got the two markets. So how much are we losing to Blade on that leakage? How many employments?
I think the math comes out to about 220,000 people who are living in our
40, yeah.
region and flying out of other airports.
So our $10 million budget, if we captured it all, which we can't, we'd do about 16 million in revenue then, kind of how the math works. If we captured half of that, we'd up the revenue $3 million. Okay. Well, let's work on that air service. I'm glad to see we're looking at discount carriers. We're looking on expansion because capacity equals employments. Again, thanks.
Just for some clarification, Mr. Hunter asked a question that kind of caught my ear. You said 60% of your activity is
Operations,
is the military.
Yes.
And I'm assuming that they pay a landing fee, touch and go when they do their thing. On the landing fee income of 1.2 million, does that include the military landing fees, or is there a separate?
No, they don't do landing fees. What they do is every time they have a agreement, a fuel agreement, every time for every gallon we get 6 cents on. And also when they remain overnight on our ramps, we also get some money from them.
So from a revenue standpoint, what impact does, if it's 60% of the activity, but in terms of your revenue, is it a substantial amount, insignificant amount?
Yes, mostly on when maintaining airfields, those type of things. The more operations we have, obviously, the more money potentially we could get from the FAA. So if they go away, yeah, we'll be, and again, we'll lose some revenue as well. Because most of the time, the fixed base operators really are the ones that are doing things with the military. So they will also lose some funding as well.
Brad, do you have the approximate amount?
I didn't hear any numbers.
I don't
what's the number amount, do we know?
No, I don't have it on there.
Nicole, do you know the amount of revenue we get from the federal government?
I don't have the breakdown for the military specific because they do work with the FBOs. And FBOs will pay us, I think it's 50% of what they rent out. And we don't have that breakdown by military or what they're renting out. We can get that, but we don't have that
It's
breakdown
60%
here.
of what.
Yeah, it's about 50%.
It's probably going to be 60% of what we.
FBOs are bringing in.
But we'll get that to you, Mayor.
The reason I say that, and we've got a military appreciation banquet today. We got, I'm assuming that there's some correlation between if there's 60% of their activity, that's probably a pretty nice hunk of change that we get from the military operations, which I don't think that we really realize, but which really stresses the importance to me is our continued effort on behalf of the military here through our South Texas Military Affairs Task Force and other things, is to make sure that we defend them, because it's not just the base would have an impact. I mean, if you lost, I guess to put it another way, if you lost 60% of your operations out there, you'd be in a world of hurt, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, it's not just the Army Depot that would be at risk if a Navy BRAC happened, or if the Navy or the Army Depot left, because they're the largest employer out there and the largest tenant. But, I mean, it would have a ripple effect on our airport here, so I think that just stresses the fact that we really, as a community, need to stay vigilant on working to make sure, because we've got a lot exposure out there if something happens to our military facility out here. So I didn't realize to the extent that the airport of 60%, I knew there was a lot of activity out there, but 60% is pretty significant. So thank you for that. And since it's Military Appreciation Week, we really want to appreciate them a little more. So thank you. Any other comments? All right, thank you. Does that wrap it up?
Yeah, that concludes.
They're listed last on the list.
Yes.
That's it?
That concludes the presentations, Mayor.
All right.
That's it.
Anybody have any other questions? I don't see any here. Just one quickly, and I'll get you afterwards. But our last budget discussion, we discussed, or we had a report that didn't provide a lot of information other than they weren't ready to make a report on the assignment that was given to them months ago about rates on our utility bills. What I'd like to know if when we're going to get that report, and that and I don't think the council is going to be happy if that report comes at the midnight hour just before we have to adopt a budget and we don't have a chance to look at it, because that assignment was given 6 months ago at least to address the winter averaging and to pull out the stormwater from the other utilities. And last week was a non-reveal. So when can we expect that? And the information I'm gonna get, and I think the council that was here, we were needing about $3 million, and I came back with a proposal. The city manager at the time didn't like my proposal, but she did find $3 million after I found it in different pots. But the objective is that we've got to come up with some kind of rate structure. And at this point, we have nothing to look at, and we've already got the date set to adopt the budget and the tax rate, and we've really, can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, I sure can, Mayor. So what we'll do is we'll present some material next Thursday at our final work session. That's on the stormwater fee and the approach that we can take. I know you assigned it out maybe 6 months to a year ago. What I can do is what I have tried to do in the past 3 months. So we'll provide you a report to the council on when we think we can get the stormwater fee separated from the water fee. We'll provide that in the work session next Thursday. Also, next Thursday, we'll remind the council of the the way we're going to calculate the sewer portion of the bill, the wastewater portion of the bill, as we recommended in the budget, but it doesn't hurt to repeat it next Thursday. We're recommending to cancel the current process we're using, which is a monthly proration, so whatever your water bill is, you pay a proportionate share for wastewater. We're going to go back to what was in place a little over a year ago, which is the winter quarter averaging. That will, if the council approves it as part of the budget, that would take effect beginning in December. That's when the quarter averaging would begin, December 2019. It would be December, January, February, and then that quarter average would be put in place in the April-May timeframe on our customers' bills. So the current practice, which we're kind of seeing now, the impact of that as people's water usage goes up due to irrigation and other conditions in the summer months, so does their wastewater, but there's really no correlation, and so we're going to go back to the winter quarter averaging as we recommended. We'll remind everybody of that next Thursday, and we'll also have a report on the approach for the stormwater fee.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Hernandez?
Yeah, to that point, I would expect those questions to be asked tonight at the budget meeting and on the south side. I'm getting most of the complaints on water bills here. As a matter of fact, while we were sitting here, I got 3 more complaints via email, so I would expect that today. But I also want to ask a question associated with that. There was a recommendation for an increase in wastewater rates, and by going winter averaging, there seems to be an offset there. What exactly would that offset be?
Am
I misunderstanding? There was an increased request in wastewater rates?
No, not to my knowledge.
Or was it stormwater? There was one aspect of that was...
Of the utilities, that being water and wastewater and then garbage recycling, there's only one rate increase recommended in the budget, and that would be for the water.
For the water?
For the water.
Okay, so I misunderstood that. I thought it was...
No, just the water portion, about 84 cents per month for the average customer increase.
Mm-hmm.
We were able to, what we have been saying is that because of some of our efficiencies that we recommended in the budget, taking some of the services back in-house and for a reduced cost, such as our line cleaning,
Mm-hmm.
we're able to avert or not have a rate increase in the wastewater portion of the bill.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mayor,
Ms. Guajardo?
quick, yeah, just a quick note, Mr. DeZanoni, when you do touch on the winter quarter averaging presentation or whatever you prepare, could you please include a timeline, just as a refresher for maybe some who may not know, and for us as a refresher as to how that all occurred?
Okay, the background?
Yeah,
okay, we can
please.
do that.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions? If not, then we will stand adjourned, and let's see, we got a meeting
Let's see.
next Tuesday?
Yes.
Regular council meeting next Tuesday.
Council meeting on Tuesday, and we'll see some of you all again tonight at the district meeting, community meeting in District 5 at 6 o'clock.
All right. We'll stand adjourned. Thank you.